So today we put a big nitrous kit on Christopher's car, the 1980 Trans Am. It said it went up to 250, his old kit. It's the mainline kit, but trust me, that kit only goes up to 200. This kit, based on the nitrous solenoid orifice, this kit goes up to about 450, but that's plenty for what we're going to do, I think. This is the fuel pump that's on the car. And as you can see here, it's rated at 110 gallons per hour. And according to this chart right here, I got off of Summit Racing. Carburetor with power adder. It doesn't have a 110 gallon per adder in here, but I can safely say that it'll do over 900 horsepower. And the car's got 420, 430, and then a 400 shot, that'd be 830. So, I mean, we'd still be in the ballpark there. But we're only going to go up to a 300 shot until we can get a standalone. And this is how we wound up running the regulator. A lot of people told me you should run 2 regulators. I don't see the purpose in that unless the nitrous jets call for one fuel pressure and then the carb calls for another. But this Pro Systems carburetor, it calls for 8 psi. And the nitrous jets call for 8 to 10 psi. So we're going to roll with a single regulator. Now, when we do the standalone, it's going to have a separate electric pump that's going to come on when the nitrous switch is on and a separate regulator.
I'm playing with Christopher's nitrous kit here. So this one, most of them come in one side and then go out the other one. This one comes in then down. And I guess they use the same base for both the nitrous, the fuel, this is the fuel, and the nitrous solenoid. Because you can see this one says fuel on it right here. It's got a 187 hole. That's huge. See, that'll do a big old shot. This thing's supposed to do 500. Now, when I put these fittings in here, this one was loose, yeah. So these fittings going into here, I will use some tape on those, but I'm going to put the tape way back here. You just want to keep in mind how far it's going to go in, and you don't want the tape to be exposed inside the hole. And these go way in, so I'm probably not even going to have to worry about that on these, but I am going to put the tape a few threads back before I put them in there. And you can use paste too, but on these pieces, or any AN fittings, these are the pieces where you go in here, and the jet goes right there. The long stem part of the jet goes down in there, and the rounded part goes in the front. And then this, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's concaved, and it screws on there and presses on there, and it seals itself. But these fittings here, and then your AN fitting from the line, these AN fittings, you don't ever want to use tape or paste on those either, because that lip seals with the lip inside there. But a lot of people say don't use tape on them, period, but I use tape on them. I just make sure that the tape doesn't get in the hole, because if the tape gets in the hole and it comes out and it'll get stuck in your jet or something like that, and you'll have a problem. But anyway, I'm gonna see, this one says purge too, even though it's for a fuel solenoid, but that would be a good place for a fuel pressure gauge, or maybe even a safety switch. Actually, yeah, I think it comes straight across there, so that would actually be a good place, because it comes out the bottom. Does it go across? I would think it would have to go across, because this one says purge. I mean, wouldn't do no good to put a purge on that end if it wasn't going straight through, because then your purge ain't going to work unless you had your nitrous turned on. That wouldn't make no sense. Yeah, I can see some air through there. Not much, but yeah, there's air through there. I can see through there. Yeah. So this would be a good place. Take a screw out. That looks like it'd be a good place for your pressure safety switch. Unless not enough fuel will come through there because the hole's not that big. Either way, I'm going to put the fuel pressure safety switch in the line. We will put the purge on the other side of this, but it comes in here, goes out the bottom. Now, most nitrous kits, most solenoids, it comes in the side, it goes out the side. But you'll see an in and an out. But he's wanting to use these brackets, and that hole's not big enough. See, these are just your standard compression fittings. There's like a little piece in there. This nut part goes on the line first, and then there's the little, see if I can screw it off there with one hand. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, up in there. So yeah, the nut goes up in there, and then this goes on the line. It goes right on the line. Right, slide it right up on the line. And then you put this up in there, and when you tighten it down, it's beveled right there, and so's the fitting that goes on the line. And when you tighten that down, it clamps down on the line itself. But that goes from the front of your plate to your solenoid, or the back of the plate to the solenoid is where those go. And then this is going to be your fuel line. So they like a big in line, but the outline, it ain't that big. That don't make a lot of sense to me, because they say you have to have so big of a fuel line for such a big shot, but all the kits use this side line from the solenoid to the plate. That don't make a lot of sense to me, but they know more about it than I do, I guess. But we're going to go ahead and put some of that tape on these, some of that Teflon tape on these. Again, I'm going to go a few threads back, making absolutely sure that none of the threads get down in the hole, which I don't have to worry about that because that hole's deeper than these threads. But you want to put it back on the thread so none of it hangs off the edge anyway. But I'm going to put that thread tape on all these and get this all set up. He wants to use these brackets, and it looked like they will work. I just have to drill that hole out a little bit because that hole ain't big enough for this piece that has to go up in there, because it's got to go up in the middle, and that hole's not big enough to fit that in there. Yeah, go this way. That's the tapered end that goes on that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. So here's the PTF tape I'm using. I'm using the yellow, which is for gasoline, for gas. But yeah, like I didn't go all the way on the front of the threads. I come back about that far and I screwed that in and I tightened it up real good. I had to cut my Teflon tape in half down the middle because it's too wide that way. So I just cut it like half right down the middle. But yeah, that one's in. The purge is going to go into this side, so we're just going to leave that one loose for now. And then we'll go ahead and put this one in. This is the in, so I'll go ahead and put that one in. And again, I just use half the tape because the tape, see, it's too thick to be up on your nut, so I just use half of it. I just go around it a couple of times, seeing I leave 2 or 3 threads there. And when you put these in, this is your end. That was the end. That was the AM fit, and that's the end from the bottle through this line to there. So that's the AM fit, and that's in. And then you can read on these. They'll tell you in and out. See, in, out, and then that's the purge port. But we're going to cap that one because we're going to put the oh, that reminds me. Yeah, we're going to put the fuel pressure safety switch in the line itself, which I need to grab that real quick to see how we're going to do that anyway. But yeah, just go back a little bit and then screw it in. Make sure when you screw it in you don't get it cross threaded. Make sure it goes in nice and good, and you should be able to twist it by hand before you go to tighten it up, because I had a buddy of mine, he stripped one of his solenoids out. I don't know if he got it cross threaded or if he just tightened it up too tight. Now you want these nice and snug, but you're not putting a whammy on them. So don't go trying to tighten the crap out of them. Just tighten them up good and snug. I used that wrench on this one, and just by holding it by hand, I tightened it as tight as I could just by holding it by hand. But you don't want to go crazy with them and strip them out. Another thing, when you're hooking up nitrous, either use a standalone or make sure that you do your research. Either use a standalone and a separate pump. Actually, we're to the point to where we should have a standalone and a separate pump and a separate fuel pressure regulator, and which that is the next thing we're going to get. So 300 is as high as we're going to go. We do have a 110 gallon per hour Holley fuel pump that with a carburetor and power adder, it's supposed to be good for 800 horsepower. So the car's at like 420 and this is 300, and it'll probably spray a little bit more. So we're probably going to be at 720 at the rear, 720 to 750 at the rear wheels. So we are kind of pushing the limits on that, but we do have the fuel pressure regulator. So if it starts starving at, or fuel pressure safety switch, anytime you do nitrous, I would seriously advise to get a fuel pressure safety switch, because it's, and make sure you set it up correctly. The best way to do it is to flow it with the biggest jet you're going to use, and then set your fuel pressure with the card running.
I'll pause it right here just to clarify something real quick. When you set your nitrous fuel pressure, you want to flow the jet size, the biggest jet size that you're ever going to use. So you want it to be flowing fuel as you set that set your pressure, your fuel pressure. So for instance, it's better just to have like make you up some little contraption that's going to hold the nitrous jet in a line or something, have it going through the solenoid, have the solenoid turned on, or whatever. Just make a little contraption where it's spraying through the jet itself, and have it going into a tank, because it's going to be pouring out gas. Now, it's hard to do with the mechanical pump, because you got to start the car. You got to kind of rev it up a little to simulate kind of the carburetor pulling its fuel out. And then you got to have the nitrous side, the nitrous fuel side flowing and setting the fuel pressure at the same time. And then it's so much easier to do on a standalone, because usually you use an electric pump on a standalone. You just make your little contraption with the nitrous jet in it. It could be like a rubber line, and then just with a clamp around the nitrous jet, a line that's just, can fit over the nitrous jet or anything. But you want it flowing as you set the fuel pressure to get it just right. But you want to set that fuel pressure to where what your jets call for. These call 8 to 10, so we're on the low side of 8. But
and keep an account that when you go wide open throttle, you're also going to be having fuel coming through there too, so that's going to make a difference. But it's easier to do on the standalones. You got your fuel pump, your regulator, and then you just flow it with the biggest jet that you're going to use on that nitrous, and make sure that the fuel pressure stays at the PSI that you need for your kit that your jets come in. So like your jets, they come in different sizes depending on the fuel pressure. For instance, on that car, the fuel pressure is like 55, so it takes a smaller nitrous jet, or it takes a smaller fuel jet. It takes the same size nitrous jet typically. Most of the kits, they're 1 or 2 off on the nitrous jet, but the fuel jet, where that has more fuel pressure, it uses a smaller jet, and this one uses a bigger jet because it has lower fuel pressure. I believe that's the way it goes anyway. Let's see. So this was his old kit. So yeah, for a 200 shot, he used a 57 fuel jet. And then that was with 8 PSI pressure. And then my kit, well, on E85 it has to use a bigger fuel jet, but let's see what mine said for a 200 shot. So yeah, for 150 shot, mine said a 37 fuel. See, and then for his, for 150 shot, the other kit he had on there asked for a 48 jet. So see, the lower the fuel pressure, the higher, the bigger the fuel jet you need. But where I'm going E85, let's see. See, for my 250 shot, let's go 200 shot because that kit don't go up to 200 shot. I forgot what the jets are needed for. Here it is. 150 shot, 62 nitrous, 38 fuel, and that's with E85. That's the E85 jets. 62 nitrous, 38 fuel for 150 shot. $67 nitrous, 48. Maybe I do have it backwards. Yeah, see, I'm still using a smaller nitrous jet with E85. An E85 or fuel jet, I'm using a smaller fuel jet than he is for 150 shot, and that's even with E85 that requires 30% more fuel. So the higher the pressure, the less fuel jet you need. So you want to try to dial your fuel pressure into what your nitrous jets are going to use, especially if you have a standalone. If you're spraying off the rail or off the mechanical fuel pump like we are on this car, I spray off the rail on that one, but I got a 450 liter per hour pump on that one, which I handle a ridiculous amount. And he's got a 110 gallon per hour, which I handle about 800. So we're spraying off that, but it's better to do a standalone. Anything 250 up, you're better off with a standalone. But we're going to do this 300 for this next weekend, and we're going to spray it off that big 110 gallon per hour pump. But anyway, I got sidetracked. I'm gonna go ahead and screw all these in. I'm going to take a look at the fuel pressure safety switch, see how I can wire that, screw that in and stuff like that. But I'm going to go grab that stuff. Alright, I got my fittings all set there. Plugged that one. I left this one open because that's where the purge is going to go. And these, I didn't Teflon these yet because I'm going to put those through that hole. These are made for the other solenoids that go straight through, but I was able to bend them a little bit, and I think I got them about where they'll work. So I loaned out my drill bits, though. I need to drill those out to a 7/16 at least. And then that'll be enough, because this don't screw all the way in. It won't screw in as thick as this is. So, I mean, that alone being screwed through there will hold that from flopping around. And that's the main thing, is we don't want it flopping around on these lines. Now the smaller solenoids, I don't even use them brackets for these because they're not really heavy enough. See, this was his other kit we're putting on the third gen. See, they're not really heavy enough to do and to hurt anything, I don't think. But now these big ones, that's another story. These big ones, they're heavy. That's a lot of meat there. Oh, that's that flopping around in there. I was about to say there ain't nothing supposed to be jiggling in there, but that was just the fitting inside there jiggling around. But anyway, Yeah, these are definitely going to need some support because that's kind of heavy. That's actually heavier. No, I thought it was heavier than that whole thing combined, but it's not. But anyway, your jets go in here. There's your fuel, and the back says N2O nitrous. 2 parts nitrogen, 1 part oxygen. And we put that in the back. So it'll go on the car just like that. That'll be the front. I think I'm going to bevel this up. I took the AM fitting off this because on his regulator, we were just using one side of the regulator for the carburetor and the nitrous before, but the other side we just had plugged, but it's already got a barb fitting on it like this on the other side. So I'll just run a rubber hose from here down to the other side of the fuel pressure regulator. That way one side's feeding the nitrous and one side's feeding the motor, which should work good. He had the log, you know, where it goes into the, yeah, here's a good example. This carburetor here, see, he has a big log thing on his, and in the back he had it tapped and then coming around and coming out and into the nitrous with this little fitting in the back of that log. And that hole's a little bit smaller than these holes. But anyway, I think that would have been plenty to do it that way. But the angle this is at, that line was hard to fit on there to begin with. So we're just going to come off the regulator from the barb fitting that's already on there that we have plugged. And I'm just going to run that up to here. And that's the way we're going to run that. And yeah. Once I get the drill bits, get these holes drilled out, and then I'll put it on the car and start lining everything up and tightening everything up. But I got to get them holes drilled out, and I've loaned my drill bits out, so I got to go get those tomorrow. We're going to go ahead and put the nitrous jets in. This is the 82 jet. Right here. I have to use my phone camera and zoom in on these. I'm getting too old and too blind, I can't see them. But anyway, they go in just like that. The long end goes up in there, the round end comes out. And then this bevel end, right there, screws down on there and seals it. Kind of just like an AN fitting. But we're going to put 82 on the nitrous side. And then this one's a 67. We're going to put that on the fuel side.
And here's the jetting chart for this kit. We put 67 gasoline and 82 nitrous for 300 shot. Boom.
And that's a 300 shot. But yeah, this just screws on just like that. Alright. And then I'll unscrew this one and put this fuel jet in the same way. Alright, there we go. The nitrous and fuel jet are in. When you put these jets in, check and double check to make sure that you got the right jet size and you're putting it in the right one. The nitrous jet is usually always the bigger jet. So I put an 82 in the nitrous right there. And then I put a 67 in the fuel right there, as per the directions. And then we'll tweak it from there. We got a wideband gauge, so we'll probably do some highway pulls, and usually want to put it around 11.5 AFR. So that's where we're going to put it. And then my buddy's coming over, and we'll drill those. He's going to bring the drill bits I loaned him. We're going to drill that out. In Austin, I don't know if you can see that or not, but Austin is over there working on the 3rd gen. I don't know how good that thing's going to run. It's got the 76cc small heads with flat top pistons, so I know the compression isn't real high. And then I don't know what size cam it is, but yeah, he's going to get that on there. We're going to fix the accelerator pump that was bad in this carburetor over here. And we're going to put that on and time it and then use a vacuum gauge to set the idle air mixtures, and then we're gonna go from there. Alright, the kit came with new gaskets. Make sure all your surfaces are clean, and you also got to use the longer studs. The kit come with longer studs as well, but it goes just like that. Put one gasket down, put the nitrous plate on, and then your next gasket, just like that. Alright, and then we just put the carburetor back on top. Make sure nothing gets down in there. If it does, make sure you clean it out first. We'll go ahead and put the carburetor back on. That one on there, nice and good. Like I said, it didn't screw in as thick as that plate is, so that's all it needs to hold it. There are screws for here, but you kind of limited on which angle you can put that at, and that's the angle I want it. And yeah, so that one's on. Now we're going to put the nitrous one on same way. Also, when I put these on there, I left this nut loose and I left that nut loose, and actually I just bent this until this hose lined straight up inside there, and then I pulled it back and I put the nut on, slid it down, and I put the little compression fitting on and slid it down. Then we slid it back in the hole and tightened it up, and then we tightened this one up. So that's that. Alright, we got all the brackets on, and we got it all wired up, except for the fuel pressure safety switch. I gotta wire that up. Forgot all about that. But anyway, we got the brackets on and the plate on, the carburetor screwed down. The only thing I gotta do now is I gotta get a longer purge line. This one didn't reach where the purge is at now. And I gotta run the 6AN line. This is 4AN. Those are 6AN. Those solenoids use 6AN or 3/8. And see how we have that side of the regulator just blocked off? This already has a 3/8 barb on it. So I'm just going to run a rubber line up to here. I done tested everything. It all works. The only thing is, now I don't know about these NOS minis. They're weird. When we try to run them to one channel like you're supposed to do, we was getting backfeed, and the solenoids wouldn't pulsate correctly. One would come on and one wouldn't come on, and luckily it was the nitrous one that wouldn't come on, because if it was vice versa, it could have blown up the motor, leaned it out and blown it up. But so we went channel 1 to fuel and channel 2 to nitrous. And when you do that, you got to make absolutely sure that you go in there and program both of them stages identical when you do that, because if you don't, you could lean the motor out and blow it up if you got the nitrous coming on before the fuel. But another issue I was having, even with it wired in correctly, is anything below 30%. Well, I measured it, I tested it in 10% increments. So 0, 10, and 20 caused the fuel solenoid to delay. I mean, a good like a second before the fuel solenoid will even start coming on. But anything over 30%, then it works fine. I don't understand that. But we'll never need to go below 30% anyway, so I don't know if I trust it that way. But also, my buddy in the 2020 LT1 Camaro, he's having problems with his too, his NOS Mini, because the voltage, his voltage on his throttle position sensor only goes to 2.1. It's presetting at 2.5 for his max voltage, and when you go in there, the only setting is 90% of TPS voltage. Well, 90% of 2.5 is 2.25 if my math serves me correctly. So 2.1 won't trigger his nitrous system. So I love the idea behind the NOS Minis. I mean, the programmable features and everything like that. The problem is they're junk. They don't work right. Or mine don't and his don't. So I would not recommend those. I don't know if people have problems with the other types, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend those. I mean, the programmable features in them, man, are awesome. You get a window switch, RPM activation. You get, if you got a bottle heater in it, it won't come on unless the bottle's at a certain temperature. The nitrous won't come on unless the bottle's at a certain temperature. It's got a max run time. You can set it to run at 10 seconds. So after 10 seconds, the nitrous will shut off and it won't come back on until it resets itself. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's awesome, the programmable features in it. It just don't work right. You have a lot of problems with them. I don't know. I'm going to try to Google what the hertz is on these and see, because there is a way to change the hertz of the solenoids. And I had it at 20, I changed it to 15. But I'm going to research that a little bit more. Maybe that's the issue. I don't know. But we had this problem when we tried to go to one channel. And when you're running nitrous, you want both solenoids hooked up to one channel for one stage. And it wouldn't work that way. They said you probably had to put a diode in the line because it was backfeeding. Well, to bypass that, we just ran one solenoid to one stage and one solenoid to the other stage, which is not the correct way to do it. And you have to be real careful when you do that. Like I mentioned before, you have to go in there and make absolutely sure that stage 1 and stage 2 are set identical. And there's a lot of settings in there. There's the ramp, there's the RPM activation, there's the percentage it starts, the percentage it ends, how many seconds it takes it to get through that percentage. From, say you got 50 to 100, you can set it at 5 seconds. You can set it to come on at 3,000 RPM. You can set it to shut off at 6,500 RPM. I mean, there's a bunch of settings, and they've got to be identical if you do it that way. And we don't like doing it this way. Need to buy a diode and try to fix that, but that's what we're doing for now. But the idea behind these things are awesome. The programmable features, top notch. The functionality, not so much. But anyway, it's all hooked up. I just need to run this fuel line, hook up the fuel pressure safety switch. That fuel pressure safety switch has already been flowed for a 67 fuel jet. And that's the jet that we put in, 67 fuel, 82 nitrous, if I remember correctly. So I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave it set the way it's set. And then we'll just run the nitrous line and be done with it. And I'll just tell Chris, do not go below 30% on the ramp, the initial startup. All right, I got everything wired up. I still need to get another longer line of that for the other side of the purge. One side goes over there and one side goes over here. And then I ran the fuel line, the fuel pressure safety switch. I got it wired up. It all goes through ground. It goes through the micro switch first, which is right there, and then it goes through the fuel pressure safety switch, and then it grounds. So both of these things have to close their circuit in order for it to work. So if it's not getting enough fuel pressure, it'll shut the nitrous off. So everything's good there. We ran the fuel line off the, and this is that real unflexible 3/8" fuel line. I mean, it doesn't bend easy, and it was really hard putting on them board fittings. I had to grab it with a pair of pliers and push up on it, but it was really hard. You can heat the ends of those up and it'll make it easier, but where you're messing around with the gasoline here, some of the gasoline dropped out of the regulator. I didn't want to have to heat any of that up. So, but yeah, the fuel lines ran, everything's ran, everything's working now. All I gotta do is take the 4AN line out and put the 8AN line, route it up under the car and put it in the trunk. that's it. Put a bottle in it and that's done. Also last night, not sure if I videoed this or not, but we unhooked the vacuum off the distributor and we timed it. It's about 34 now. It falls to about 16 at idle. I adjusted on the idle mixture screws a little bit, and man, it came alive. It started running really good. It was missing and popping back through the carburetor and everything. But yeah, make sure when you time a car, when you're timing an HEI car, take the vacuum off the vacuum advance off the HEI distributor and plug that so you don't have a vacuum leak. And then what I do is I just, when you it's got mechanical weights in there, and when them weights spin out, it advances the timing. So what I do is I rev the motor up until it stops advancing. You can see it when you're trying to time it with the timing light. You can see it, and once it stops advancing, then I'll put it at 34, 36, and then that's it. Whatever it falls to is what it's going to have to idle at. But now it's still running way too fat, so we're going to go in there and check, see what power valve's in it, and we're going to lower the front jets quite a bit, because that carburetor is a little bit too big for that motor, but we should still be able to dial it in for it. But that'll give him room to go, that big carburetor, because he wants to do a roller cam and a nice set of heads, so that'll really wake that car up. But yeah, once he comes over later today, we're going to finish timing it, get it exactly where it needs to go, and mess with the carburetor a little bit more, get it dialed in. But yeah, everything is ready to go. We're ready to spray this one. I put 300 jets in it, and I'll make a video this weekend how this one does on the 300 shot at the track. Hopefully our stock 3/8 fuel line, which I run a stock 3/8 fuel line on that car, and it did 620 rear wheel horsepower. This one's about, which that dyno about 400 on a Dyno Dynamics. They read really low. In reality, based on the trap speed and weight of that car, it's got more like 460 rear wheel horsepower plus the 200 shot. It's close to 650, 700 rear wheel horsepower on the nitrous, and this one's going to be right around 700, 720, 7 to 750 actually. But hopefully, everybody says run dual regulators and a bigger fuel line, and we're going to do all that later. But we're going to try the 300 shot and see what happens. I mean, the fuel pressure safety switch is there to save us. If the fuel pressure drops below like 6, is I believe where I got it set, and I did flow that with a 67 jet, because that 250 shot on that other kit used a 67 jet. So if fuel pressure drops below like 6, it's going to shut it off. So, and we'll see what happens. I think it'll be okay. But I'm going to time it. I'm going to put it at 22 degrees. We used 24 for the 250, which was actually really a 200. So we probably actually pulled too much timing for that. So we probably could have picked up some there. Plus, I think the tires are going to help us pick up some. The springs are definitely going to help us pick up some. And yeah. So next thing is time it and run that nitrous line back to the trunk and zip tie it up to the frame, and that's it. I put new plugs in it. We did the NGK 4554, I believe is the part number. They're 8 heat range gasket seat for these Pro Max heads. And yeah, I started the car. I put it at 22 degrees. Unfortunately, it does have a off idle hesitation. Over here, we're changing jets. This thing had a 80 in the front and a 95 in the back.
85 in the front and 93 in the back.
And then it had a number 9 power valve in it. That just sounds like a crazy combination to me, but we put
It was probably a big block.
We put a 5.5 power valve in it.
Yep.
Is that what it was?
Yep.
And then we put 70. We tried 67s in the front, but that seemed a little too lean. It'd help if we had a wide band And we're going to put 85, 84s in the back. 81's in the back.
74 in the front.
And then we're going to see what that does for us. But we noticed one side of our squirter was barely, one side was squirting good and the other side was barely squirting. So we put a different squirter on it right there. So that one should do better, because it was, once it hit the secondaries, it just kind of started breaking up on us. But that gasket's kind of ripped, man.
Yeah.
Is there any more of those in there?
I don't know, maybe. The front one probably looked a little worse than that one, though. It held.
Yeah. Yeah, that one just holds the fuel bowl. It keeps the fuel bowl from leaking out.
Quite good in there.
You can try as long as it don't leak.
The legs ain't nothing to change.
But yeah, we're getting somewhere. I'm getting somewhere, both of them. I'm gonna have to go get gas for that one, and I'm pulling the 4AN hose out so we can run the 8AN hose. Once I get that ran, it's completely done. And I'm gonna end this video here, chilling out. Probably gonna eat something, finish up on this one, and then I'll get some videos of when we get that one running better, and when we got that one at the drag strip.
So in our next video, both cars got a stumble, off-idle stumble now, which is common with the Holley type carburetors, the accelerator pumps, and the squirters. I already looked at Christopher's car a little bit, and it the front squirter isn't squirting like it should. I mean, it's squirting out. It should squirt straight. His is squirting out. I mean, it's squirting out so bad that it's hitting the side of the carburetor and bouncing out of the carburetor. So I already messed with that one a little bit, so I'm going to get another squirter for that one, see if that fixes that one. And then on Austin's car, it's doing the same thing. You have to set those accelerator pumps a certain way, and when you move the idle around and stuff like that, it changes that stuff. So I'm assuming his, it looks like it just needs some accelerator pump adjustments, but that's going to be the next video.